The time is 6:06. We'll call the meeting to order.
He said, every time you stop, turn off.
Okay, and with that, we'll go ahead and do roll call.
Director Covington.
Here.
Director Gabriel.
Here.
Director Thorpe. Yeah. Please let the record show that Director Prather is absent tonight and Director Hill is also absent tonight.
Okay, thank you so much. Next item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Director Covington, if you would lead us in the pledge. Okay, thank you very much, Director Covington. Next item is the workshop. So the purpose of this workshop, and it's kind of the reason why we're starting a lot earlier today, is to go over not necessarily what the long-term plan is for the district, but rather how to form said plan. So it's like a derivative of the long-term strategic planning that we would like to do. So at this time, I think a good time to sort of throw out ideas. Do we think a one-day comprehensive workshop? Are we thinking over the span of a couple, 2-3 meetings to break out the details that we need to sort of flush out and make sure we have sort of a long-term plan? Things including apparatus changes, the potential for a third station at the on San Pablo Avenue that was mentioned in the report submitted for the yes, the developer impact fees. So things like that. How do we place the district in a position to achieve those goals, as well as any other potential things that may come down the line that may adversely or positively affect the district?
Directors, if I could, not to
Yes.
interrupt you, but before you, I do have our old strategic plan, business plan. It does have some of the items that you were just talking about in it. This ended in 2016, which is, it's not unusual to have a business plan or a strategic plan last about 5 years. We have met some of the goals that are within this plan, so I just wanted to bring that to you for reference.
Thank you so much. This is actually a very valuable tool because it kind of points out the highlights that we have to look for, as well as sort of the big
I have a
impacts.
question about it.
About every 5 years.
About every 5?
Yeah.
For the next 5?
Correct. And if you wanted to look in this, we have actually have met some of the goals that are within this plan. Some of the most highlighted ones, of course, was passing our Measure O ballot measure. The fact that we still have ongoing training and recruitment, and we still do ongoing testing and promotional exams. We have established a program manager to look at our fleet, and we established with the board a fleet management program that we could use going forward. We have looked at how we do our budgeting, and we recreated our budget over the last 4 years. We've come up with a vehicle replacement schedule that we did not previously have. We are looking, we're getting ready to adopt the fire code tonight, hopefully. And we have replaced, due to the age and condition of our PPE, all the personnel have new PPE and have a backup set of PPE, which we previously did not have. I'm currently in the process of looking at and will bring to the board in 2020, enhancing our fire prevention bureau. Our current, we only have one person in our fire prevention bureau right now that works part-time, and the workload is definitely outpacing what he can do. And with the growth in Hercules, we're going to have some succession planning for that and be able to bring somebody else into the Bureau. You mentioned the new fire station. I have it on very good authority at this time, and it's about 95% complete, that the county will deed over the piece of property on San Pablo Avenue to us at no cost beside the regular property taxes that are due on it. So that's kind of just an overview of what's inside this current business plan.
How big is that piece of land?
It's don't quote me on exactly, it's about 4.5 acres. Yeah.
So just
So
to
I've
confirm,
been-
they're going to give it to us? They're not just leasing it, something like the City of Hercules? They're willing to outright?
I've been working on that over the last 6 months or so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Or do the companies?
So the companies do all business inspections, and all the schools, and everything that's under the state mandate, so it's the schools, all the care facilities, all the apartment buildings. So basically, everything within the City of Hercules and the town of Rodeo gets inspected. And then
Frontline companies.
by the frontline companies. And then we currently do our own plan checks and our own plan reviews, and then we issue permits and do on-site inspections.
That's through the the part-time? That's through the one-time, the part-time person does those?
We share it.
Okay.
He and I share all that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the background on that. I think in terms of how to present our strategic plan, I think just following this template is the easiest way to sort of move forward on this. So following the template of 2012 to 2016 plan, I think this is a good template for us to go off of moving forward. I think a good year to start would be fiscal year 2020 and to 2021. Yeah, so it would be. You want to go farther than 21? Well, to start, that fiscal year is when we would start. But I mean, I know this is 4 years out, or this plan is 4 years. Do we want to go further and have other districts gone further? I'd like to see 10, 15 years even. If the board wants to look at it that way, of going forward 10 years out, what the district wants to look like. Because I know 4 years it's probably the most accurate way to go forward, because you can base it off of today's numbers, but I'd like to see us look for a lot further than that, to maybe even 2020 to 2030, 10 years.
I think,
Yeah, I can see that, definitely. So we'll do year by year, 2020, 2021, 2022, up until 2025, and then a second sort of, it would basically be similar to like an addendum or an additional section to this original document, which would just be like 10 years. So it goes 1 through 5, and then maybe 7 and 10?
sure.
Yeah, just to make sure, or 7.5, like midway between 2025 and 2030, and then 2010, or 2030, sorry. Okay, is that okay? Does that sound good to you, Director Thorpe, or are you thinking differently, or want to add anything?
Well, I'm wondering how,
Make sure my mic is on.
I'm wondering how realistic it is to project that far into the future. I mean, it's just like it becomes an exercise rather than a practical accomplishment. I don't know.
Well, I think you have to have at least some goals in mind for, you know what I mean, moving forward. So kind of like what the chief did here, where you might not hit every single one, but at least we have a list that we're working from so we can see. Because, 10 years will go by, quick, and then you don't even know,
Yeah.
what you accomplished or where we're going or, so that's what I was saying. Maybe for the 10-year, we kind of have just a comprehensive list of everything you'd like to see for the next 10 years. And then for the next 5 years, have a more detailed plan for how you're going to start knocking some of these things off.
Well, for example, would we say we want to be totally electric? And that's possible. Is it realistic? I don't know. I'm ambivalent about it.
Understandable, but I'd like to see for like the 10-year goal to be things like reaching reserve levels, or not in terms of our budgetary reserves. Like at year 10, hopefully we'll have enough reserve to last an extra year or 2 years, or sort of in that situation. Those kinds of ideas for the longer term, versus year say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It would be replace this apparatus, open or begin breaking ground or something along the lines for the proposed new fire station. Things like that can be on the year by year, things that can somewhat accurately be predicted. But for like the long-term things, that can be something along that we can work closely with MRG, the financial group that we're working with. They can help facilitate and provide accurate or more accurate than our mere speculations can.
Actually, when I think about it, the chief accurately predicted a lot of things, and so I guess my concerns are not warranted because we effectively achieved a lot of the goals that he wanted. So there's no harm in it. So I withdraw my ambivalence.
Well, it's a very good question though. It asks the question of why are we doing this really, and I think that's kind of the point of this stage of the strategic planning, is figuring out how far out do we want to go, what vehicles do we want to use to plan this. Thank you. Yeah. So it looks like we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a midway point, and then a 10. Okay. No, like that. And we'd like to follow the outline similar to the previous strategic plan. Do we have a consensus on that? Or any changes that you want to see, at least in terms of layout, and not necessarily the substance of this document, but the layout? Is there anything you'd like to see differently?
Like what? They might have a different way that even flows better.
Sure, yeah. Okay, so we'll turn the layout and all the sort of the nuts and bolts over to staff, if that's something the board is okay with, consensus on?
What do you mean?
So see how the old layout is just strategy 2015.1, 2015.2, leaving that sort of nuts and bolts of how to present it to staff, rather than us take it upon ourselves to do it.
Well, it would certainly behoove us to have them take a first run at it at least.
Yeah, and I think that would be good too. And okay, so that takes care of what we would be, how far out we'd be looking at, and how we plan to present it. Now, what about how we as the board want to look at information and review things and moving forward like that? What is everyone's sort of learning style or best way to input data? Would it just be handing a stack of documents saying, look at these and calling it a day? Or is it more of you'd like to see a day when staff, MRG would present sort of present numbers and future trends and that sort of thing? Sort of like the retreat we did for the, was a budget the budget retreat, something similar to that, where we allowed staff to sort of prepare presentations throughout the day and just took a day to learn about the district and then come back around after that? Or any other ideas?
I don't, you know. Sorry. Got it. You know, I don't want to make it some
Yeah.
big drawn out, you know, production that they have to adhere to.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, what about a retreat where we sort of open up with the budget stuff, the monetary status of the district, like where we've been a few years back, where we are currently, and sort of the projections as well as like income, revenues with CPIs attached to it. I think MRG already does that in our budget as it sits now, right? And so we can, that's not too labor intensive to pull together. And also, another section or presentation on community engagement, sort of the steps that the district already takes and what it can do to expand, as well as what it's done in the past. I know seeing this mission values goals or business plan, there's some programs in here that we don't have already. If that's within the sites of the district going forward, that's something that can be included in the longer term goals. That would be a good item to include in in some kind of presentation.
I think that this is not just for us. It's good. It functions the way we want it to function. I think it would be available to other parts of the community and other decision-making bodies. And so I think we should treat it as a multimedia presentation. In other words, use video and try and dig up what we can of past, present, and future. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You like to see like other organizations involved in this planning process, or how do
I
you
think we
see
should look at it as a reflection of the district, and that reflection is going to be available to other parties. That we want something we want to be proud of.
So, like, you want the final product to be something that's available to everyone, or are you talking about the process itself?
No, the product.
The final product?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the sort of something similar to this 2018 annual report. See how it's like well-colored documents. I don't know. Do you have one of these?
I think.
Yeah, something like this is what you had in mind. Because I think the business plan was originally printed in that way. It's just where it clearly outlines things.
Well, this is a good place to start.
Yeah, so you'd like to see us start here, but sort of build off of that?
Yeah.
Okay, in sort of what way?
Well, I think there could be a structure that's more useful. In other words, have an overview of the district in relation to fire service and the makeup of the district, who's who, what do they do, the examples of past problems and solutions photographically and text, and projections of future aspirations. So that might involve some, for lack of a better term, sci-fi, some imaginative projections of what a fire station might be like in 10 years from now.
Oh, sort of like, you know, maybe there's more solar and
Yeah,
sort of the things that we're doing now, but sort of, you know, with solar and LED changes and stuff like that.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I wanted to follow up on the like the overview part that you mentioned. So it's something like a one paragraph synopsis of who the district is type of thing, boiled down as like an intro. Okay.
Yes.
And then when you said the makeup of the district, like who is who, do you mean like the positions, the rank and file, or board of directors, captain, that sort of thing?
Yes.
Okay. And then like examples. Actually, this would be a great, so we have like the main document that would serve as the business plan, but then we would also have like a supplementary, like a three page, or like what do you call it, like a pamphlet essentially. That's a easy, quick tool to distribute.
Like a DVD.
A DVD. What do you see being included in that?
Like some really hair-raising fire treatments to show what the department does and who the department is.
Okay. I think, yeah, we can.
Romanticize it.
Okay, sort of keep it in the viewer engaged in that kind of sense.
It's for the public to see what a stellar department they have.
Okay. That's good to know. That's what you meant by multimedia, having it more than just a piece of paper or a page on
Yes.
the internet. So you give it a third dimension type of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that actually makes sense to sort of consider moving forward, and something as simple like a video, or it can be even sort of a PowerPoint presentation with.
I see our job as more than just explaining to the community who and what we are. It's celebrating it. You know, it's like well, I'll give you a weird example. This is not about firefighting, but it's an example. I created a sport. It's now called BattleBots. It used to be called Robot Wars. And it's making engineers into rock stars.
Yeah.
And it's having a big effect on engineering education, that sort of thing. And I think we could do the same thing with the fire department. So when you ask, when you go, if and when you need to go to the public and ask them for tax money, they're thinking about the firefighting equivalent of Eric Clapton. it's a preemptive strategy for promoting the district.
That makes sense. I think a good thing is a lot of the media or like a lot of the videos and stuff that you were mentioning are readily available, and we can integrate that into that the multimedia document that or file that you're imagining. I forgot the mic. Okay, thank you for that. Dr. Hill, good to see you.
Chair, apologies for my late
No
arrival.
worries, good to see you.
Thanks.
Okay, let the record reflect that Director Hill is now present. Okay, I guess I'll just this is a good point to sort of give a brief recap of where we are so far. It looks like in terms of nuts and bolts, the strategic planning, we'd like to see mirror a previous strategic plan that we had, the fire district had in place from 2012 to 2016. In terms of what is included, it would be a year by year from years 1 through 5, as well as a overview for year 7.5, or like at that point, and then year 10. Because once you reach sort of a point that far out, it's hard to predict from that point. And then in terms of layout of the strategic plan, we're going to sort of let staff take the lead on that, on how to present the documents, or how to present the strategic plan. And then in terms of information, so we as the board will need a lot of information sort of presented to us in the most easily digestible fashion. I think one thing we kind of agreed on is similar to the budget workshop, to have a one-day, all-day comprehensive overview of the district, and then perhaps following up that following meeting with another workshop where we can really get into the substance of the strategic plan. And then in terms of, to follow up on presenting the information, Director Thorpe was talking about not only having the information or the strategic plan be in paper form, similar to the previous one as well as the 2018 annual report, but to also have it be in a way that's that can be presented to the public using multimedia, using videos, photographs, adding a different depth to the district in terms of what they do, how they serve, how the district serves the public, and that sort of thing. Did I summarize it pretty accurately? Yeah. Okay. I guess from there, we would have to talk about what do we want in this one-day retreat that we would come back around and digest information. One thing was a budget. Oh, I know we talk about budget a lot, but it's very important, especially in strategic planning. I think that's something that we should have presented to us during that retreat. I think another one was community engagement. What we've done in the past, what we plan to do in the future, what potentially we can circle around again a few years from now, given the resources and the public engagement. Was there anything else that other board members saw as a potential item to discuss during the strategic planning apparatus? And what would you like to see with that? Your mic.
A plan, what plan is in place, what plan could be in place for apparatus replacement, lease versus buy, all the variations of that.
Should we include a section about like what certain apparatus does, or do you think we have a pretty good understanding of that? Well, I mean, I'm sure you do, but.
Well, I mean, yeah, everybody can speak on it. I think we have a good understanding of that just on what Chief Craig has, presented to us so far.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more of a cost feature moving forward. What vehicles are going to cost? What is it going to take for us to maintain our fleet moving forward? What's the best plan to do that and still, not have to wait 15 years for new rigs and things of that nature. So just to have a plan for that.
Yeah, that makes sense, because I'd definitely not like to be in the same position that we are now, where we have one rig that's, I think, older than me.
Right.
And that's,
Right. Right.
and I think with the
That takes
strategic plan.
planning for sure.
Yeah, and I think actually we can probably roll that in with the budgeting section, because I think our budget also has sort of an outline, but I think we can go further into it and just an overview and other ways to plan for that, given our current situation.
One other thing I'd like to see is, and we've talked to Chief a little bit about it, but just what the plan is moving forward as far as longevity of our department, mergers, things of that nature, and what as a department is our stance on, as we move forward. What's the financial impact of keeping things the way they are versus, other possibilities moving forward?
Okay, yeah, and actually, I'd like to build off of that. Is sort of what would happen if, there's a sizable cut in our revenues, and sort of worst case scenario. I think that's one thing that we should absolutely discuss, is what would happen if we were in a situation similar to what happened in the first economic downturn, where we were running on reserves and running on negative for a while. Have we built in any contingencies?
Plan B.
B and C and all the letters. Yeah, I think that's one thing that we should at least need to openly discuss, is what would happen if things all went wrong. Knock on wood.
And even, what Chief was saying a couple of meetings ago about Pinole, inquiring about, what do you guys think about this, or what if we, so in order to be able to go back and speak, intelligently about where the department is, we should have that conversation amongst ourselves and the line and Chief and everybody else, and see what, as a group, what is our stance and what is our goal in those regards.
Okay, yeah, that's really good stuff. Anything else anyone would like to see? We'll take a moment to sort of think of things.
One thing I would like to see is, we kind of visited a little bit before, but what are other communities our size with our rate of growth, like what is their trajectory? So we can kind of see, are there other cities out there who are growing at the same kind of similar rate that we are, and what's in their trajectory as far as new firehouses, apparatus, personnel? Because as we move forward, say for example, we open a third firehouse. Well, that's 10 more people, 9 more people. That's additional budget. That's additional, so additional apparatus and all those things. So we should have a baseline for how we can afford ourselves.
I'd like to tie into that, and I don't think I see it. Somebody stop me if I've missed it, but I don't think I see it in the plan, the previous plan that's been reviewed here, except maybe in the master plan focus area, and that is the area of development. One of the resolutions we're going to look at later this evening, I think, talks about an obligation to meet ongoing, to maintain and enhance the district's level of fire protection services and facilities based on existing and new development. And this is something we sort of have touched on over the course of the last year. But I'd like to see us really take a look at the impact of expected development in the city over the course of this envisioned plan over the next 0 to 10 years. And to have a better handle on what we think, how we think that's going to affect our master planning. There's a lot of data on development right now. We just went through the process with Wildan and the developer impact fees. And I think we could, this plan should address the impact of development on the services we will need to provide based on it.
Okay. So, just to cover up, Director Covington mentioned about the growth and comparisons, as well as the growth of the district, and then Director Hill, we would like to see regarding the development, how to what level of service we maintain now, what we see in the future, what are the options essentially going forward.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that we should, our strategic plan should support our future outreaches to the city and the county for developer impact fee increases.
Okay. Okay. That's good to know. Anything else? Anyone else? How about any public comment? It's a workshop, so I don't know if we need speaker cards on this, but if anyone would like to contribute, oh, thank you. If anyone would like to contribute, now is the time for public comment. Okay. Hearing none, I guess one thing we should also look at is making sure we keep our eye on the prize of what we want, make sure staff is readily informed and always aware of the direction that the board is meeting. I know we're talking in very high 10,000-foot level of discussion. And I think one thing we should have as a board is a subcommittee to sort of work with the district or the district staff, and I think MRG is going to be heavily involved in these discussions because they're in charge of the fiscal impacts over the next year. So I think, it's 6:45. So if there's any board member that has an interest in being a part of that subcommittee, I think now is the appropriate time. Council, is it okay for us to create a subcommittee, or is that more in line for a?
You should agendize that for a future meeting if you want, but it sounds like there was some discussion of a workshop. I don't know if you want to include that as part of the workshop once there's a discussion of all of these areas, and then to see if, two members want to work with the chief on putting it together. That might be one route to do it as well, rather than creating the subcommittee, next month.
Yeah, well, I wanted to see the subcommittee be a part of planning that workshop as well, to make sure that we're covering all our bases, and that the workshop is going to accurately reflect what we discussed here today. But I mean, it's October. We have a meeting in I think October 23rd.
That is correct.
Yeah, so we'll have a meeting on October 23rd. So I think next we can talk about timeline, since that's time is of the essence for this. I envisioned that we would have something for the beginning of the 2020-2021 fiscal year. So I guess we just have to talk about what we would like to see. So our next meeting is on October 23rd.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, yeah.
I don't really necessarily feel like it's priority to have it at the beginning of the fiscal year 2020, you know what I mean? Because we're going to have a budget already for that year. So if it comes sometime in 2020, then it's a 5-year window that we're creating. So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I don't know if it has to be like, hey, January 1, where's that?
Oh, no, it's
Where's that paperwork?
that's in June.
June. So
Yeah, it would be in June. But like I said,
do you feel like it's important to have it at the beginning of the fiscal year?
Yeah, I think at least in the sorry, I can't speak. In the finalization of the budget, which I believe happens around September or August, I'd like to at least have us in a position where we can base that budget and also anticipate costs, and to sort of using the strategic plan in mind for that planning. So beginning, when we finalize the budget in September, we also have our strategic plan that can either accompany it, or we can keep in mind as we go on throughout the year and things come up. But also, I'd like to also have it for the elections that are going to happen in 2020. It is an election year, and I think, I don't know what's going to happen, but if there were changes in the board or anything like that, it would be good to have this strategic plan in place. So even prospective candidates have a sort of an idea of where this district is going, and really hopefully attract the best potential candidates. That's one good tool about the strategic plan. So yeah, so timing, I mean, we don't have to talk about this item every single month, but I do want to see at least, the key dates are the workshop, which I think we'll just have to do via like a doodle or something like that. And also the meeting to sort of put together the pieces after the workshop. So coming back together after that workshop. Sorry. So our next meeting is October 20th, and how we want to do it. Do we want to have a subcommittee be a part of the pre-workshop discussions, or would we rather have the subcommittee in the post-workshop discussions? I'm open to either one, really.
Be curious to know what the chief thinks.
Oh, yeah.
I think that you probably could go ahead and stand up your subcommittee, and then they bring the substance to your workshop, because that's kind of going to be your conduit, right? From what the board is going to want to see in the strategic plan. And then a little bit clearer direction on how much outreach you want me to do as far as staff is concerned in bringing ideas back to the board. I know we've thrown a bunch of stuff up on the wall, see what would stick, but I think we could even open it up even more globally, even larger scope, a little more 38,000 foot level kind of stuff. And then take that and then narrow it down to some focal points, but a little more broad stroke in our thinking. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. Come up with the most outlandish idea, but then bring it back, right?
Thank you, Chief. I agree with that, really, too. So given hearing that, I'd like to propose this to the board is on the October 23rd meeting, we could appoint a subcommittee appoint the subcommittee, and then between that and the November meeting, I think the November meeting is going to happen rather quickly after that. I think it's the second Wednesdays? November 13th, yes. Thank you. November 13th. We can have the subcommittee circle back, report out sort of a proposed idea for the substance of the workshop that we would like to have. We don't have a December meeting, and it's the holidays. I'm a little skittish on planning anything in that time. I don't know if the board agrees or if they're okay to push forward. I myself personally am okay, but I respect everyone may have holiday plans during the months of end of November and through December. But beginning of the new year in January, sometime in January, we can have a workshop, one-day workshop. And whatever the following meeting is, whether it's, let's say we get our workshop in the first weekend of January by some miracle, I don't anticipate it, but if it's possible, and then we can circle back in our January meeting and talk at length during that meeting of what we would like to see in our strategic plan. And then from there, or in February, depending whichever one, January or February, I'd like to leave that open. And then by March or April, perhaps have staff come back with us with a first round. It's also the midst of budgeting time, so that's why I want to give them a little more time than just 1 month turnaround. So 2 months, is that keeping in mind? Is that possible?
You have very lofty goals,
Yeah.
Chairman. I understand we're knee-deep in the audit right now also.
Oh, okay, that's right. Okay, well, like I said, that's our goal. I think it's not impossible. I think throughout this process, we'll have the subcommittee be a part of it to help bear some of the weight. and then perhaps come back around with something. Let's see, we would have the first preliminary budget due by June. July, August is when we have a lot of those signing things, the agreements and stuff we have to sign in August, right? CPIs are due around June. I think August, right before the month before the meeting where we usually have the final budget due, like August. That would be possible to have like not necessarily the final draft, but the draft after the board took a look at it. That's a goal.
It's a goal.
Okay.
It's just like the strategic plan.
Yes, just like just like the previous strategic plan, we necessarily didn't hit all of them, but it felt so good when we did hit the ones that we did hit. So, yeah, I think if we push forward, we can definitely get this and that. At least moving forward, we have an idea of where we'd like to see things going. I know for sure we can definitely get this October 23rd subcommittee checkbox. Okay. Is there anyone else want to chime in or have any input about the scheduling of things? No? Okay, what time is it? 6:53. Okay, I think, do we have any public comment from anyone, any input? No? I think now is a good time for a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back together. Well, it's 6:53, we'll come back at 7 from the break to begin the regular meeting. Thank you. Alrighty, let's, the time is 7:04. We're back from our break. Next item on the agenda are announcements. Do we have any announcements?
We do. On the 12th of this month is the department's open house. That will be held at Station 76, and it'll be from 10 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. And of course, all you are welcome to come.
Thank you very much. Next item, confirmation of the agenda. Are there any proposed changes or modifications to agenda? Okay, hearing none. So I'll make sure one more thing. Yeah, hearing none. We'll move on to board correspondence. I think we have a couple.
You do. So the first board correspondence is from a former employee's wife. So Bill Baker, William Baker, worked for the department and passed away in, I believe it was 1989 or 90, due to cancer related complications. I was able to apply and get permission from the CPF to have his name put on the wall in Sacramento, and so that occurred on this last Saturday. So this is just a letter of her appreciation of that occurring. And then secondly, you'll find a packet of information that was sent by Director Prather in regards to apparatus. And that's all I have for correspondence.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Any comments regarding the board correspondence? None? Next item is public communication.
Sorry, I do have one more correspondence. You also will find in front of you the 2018 annual report that we just completed. I know it's almost, we're almost finished with 2019, and 2020 will be here before we know it. But I do want to present to you our 2018 annual report, and of course, we will be pretty quickly here working on the 2019 annual report and try to get caught up and have that for you by the beginning of 2020, along with the strategic plan and the budget and everything else.
Thank you.
I'd like to say, if you don't mind, to the chief, that I personally know what an undertaking creating a document like that is. So kudos to you and staff for having the, I don't know, determination, I guess, to get that, see it through and get it done. I think it's a valuable thing, and I know we talked separately about getting it, I guess it's already posted digitally to share it with the community, which I think is a great thing. So congratulations.
Thank you very much, and I'll pass that on to staff also. I absolutely could not have made it happen without them. I think it's very important for us to memorialize what we do, and a written document and being able to put that on the website, I think, is very important for us.
Can I make one comment about the other comment about the correspondence? I'd just like to make a comment about the correspondence from Director Prather. It's my hope that the strategic planning process that we just began to craft will create a document that will give us some context to consider things like this, which I see as a subset of that strategic plan.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Any other comments regarding the board correspondence? Hearing none. Public communications. Public comment on any item of interest to the public that is within the board's jurisdiction will be heard. The board may limit comments to no more than 3 minutes per speaker. Public comment will also be allowed on each specific agenda item prior to board action thereon. Do we have any public communications?
We do not.
Okay, moving on. The next item is the consent calendar. Looks like we have a couple of meeting agendas to approve. So the first is, the first item is approval of the meeting minutes of the July 10, 2019 regular meeting. If everyone has a chance to review that, if there's any additions, amendments, or deletions they would like to see on the July 10, 2019 meeting agenda minutes. Okay, hearing none, or do you have one?
No.
Oh, hearing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the July 10, 2019 regular board meeting minutes.
So moved.
I have a motion by Director Hill. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second by Director Covington. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Agendas, the minutes are approved. Next is approval of the meeting minutes of the the August 14, 2019 regular meeting. Everyone had a chance to review it. If there's any additions, deletions, or amendments, please let us know. Okay, hearing there's no changes, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the August 14, 2019 board meeting minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Director Hill. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second by Director Thorpe. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? And the meeting minutes are approved. Next is a review of the transmittals. If there's any specific ones anyone has a question about, I actually had one really quick. On August 14, 2019, PG&E Station 76 annual tune-up, $6,017.93.
So it's actually should not be tune-up, it should be true-up. It does actually say true-up.
That does say true.
But you got me with tune-up, because I was, so that's exactly what it's stating is, so, which is actually changed now, but each month, we only pay an increment due to the solar, and now with the LED lighting, and then they do what's called a true-up to, of actually what we would have owed if we were paying the full amount each month. And so that's what that true-up is. One thing I am very happy to report, with the new LED lighting, our bill, and I had a graph, I was gonna bring it tonight, but we are currently making money with the solar. Our energy output is almost to zero at this point at both stations. So we'll see I foresee that we will see quite a reduction in our utility bill due to that.
Okay, and just to follow up on that, is Station 75 also solar? No.
It is.
Oh, it is?
So
Okay.
both stations have solar.
Uh-huh.
You just cannot see Station 75s because they're behind the parapet up on the roof. It just happens, you see 76s because they're on top of the classrooms. Yeah, but both stations do have solar, and through a grant, we have LED lighting throughout both stations now. So that's really what's going to help to make that difference.
Perfect, thank you. Any other questions about the transmittals?
I have one question for the chief. It's not so much about the money, but just for my own edification. East Bay Mud, do we pay for water, and if so, what part of the water do we pay for? All of it?
We don't pay for water out of the fire hydrants, but we pay for water just like you pay for it at your house.
The water bill we see here is for, I don't know, domestic use in the stations.
That is correct.
And is there a reason why there's not, same thing I guess applies to PG&E was for 75, one for 75 and one for 76. I assume there's a water bill for 75 also?
There is. I don't know why it's not on here.
Okay. But none of that water that's billed is to go into engines?
That is correct.
Okay.
We do not, we fill the engines, we have a hydrant in front of both stations.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions regarding the transmittals? Okay, we'll move on. Item number 9, ordinance 2019-01, ordinance of the, is that correct? Oh, no, we used resolution, sorry. Ordinance 2019-01, ordinance of the Rodeo-Hercules Fire Protection District adopting the 2019 Fire Code with amendments. We'll do a first reading. I think is, so if anyone wants to take a look, if they have any questions. Sorry if there was a staff report for this. I think there was.
So before you, you have the 2019 fire code. This is something we do every 3 years. With attached to your fire code, you'll also see an addendum that is for climate change. And so the reason we do that is so that we can make the modifications to the fire code, do our additions to the fire code of things that aren't listed in the California Fire Code, any additional items that the Rodeo-Hercules Fire Department has as requirements within the fire code. And those additions is what you basically see listed in this ordinance. We adopt the entire code, but then we adopt our additions also. And then those are also taken to the city of Hercules and to the county for adoption.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I guess we'll do the first reading for this, if there's any questions from the board.
I had a couple of questions. Chief, it's hard for me to sort of make a judgment on this without a red line to compare it to the previous. What's different about this from the version 3 years before?
It's basically the same. There is no red line, there was no deletions, there was only additions. And I guess I could have included a copy of the 20, I guess would have been 16 report. But it's basically all the additions you see are ones that were in 2016. There were some, I did some clarification on police powers. And we did some additions for breathing air for construction over 5 feet and subterranean over 2 stories.
Chief, how do you decide, the fire code is enormous, but how do you decide what Hercules needs to adopt? Like, what's the process for that? Just what you've seen throughout the year as far as?
What I've seen throughout the year, and then in the county, all the county departments, we held meetings.
Okay.
Starting in about February of this year. We met once a month and went over fire code adoption and what each jurisdiction was going to adopt and different amendments for each one of those jurisdictions. Actually, East Contra Costa County is going to, or East Contra Costa, no county on the end of it, is going to adopt our permitting, or not permitting, our ordinance for doing fines, basically. So our
The penalty phase of it?
yeah, penalty, because they don't currently have one, so our ticket book,
Yeah.
for lack of better terminology, but, and so that kind of collaboration between all the departments is what led us to developing our fire code. Now, some departments have some other things that are included in theirs that we don't, food trucks for one. One of the departments has a whole entire section on food trucks. Because they have a farmer's market each week. So we kind of, some things are adopted through all the different jurisdictions, and other things, are not. But some things are just particular to us.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Chief, on
Citation program is where I was trying to go, sorry.
just a note, on page 3, section 109, the 1, 2, 3, the fourth line of that 109 Board of Appeals established paragraph. I think where you say manner, you mean matter. You may want to look at that and consider changing it before it goes to the public.
Okay, any other questions? It's a really good catch. Normally I catch those. Okay, I think we're not gonna be voting on that, rather we're just going to be setting the, oh, sorry, any public comment for this? No public comments? No. Okay,
No speaker cards, and yes, this is your first reading. It'll be for adoption at the second meeting in October.
good.
And I'll make that correction.
I would just do a motion to introduce and conduct the first reading, just so there's a clear record of it.
I'll entertain a motion to conduct the first reading. Or did you want
So who moved?
to move, Director Thorpe?
I second it.
Well, then I'll motion it.
Okay, motion by Director Hill, second by Director Thorpe. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, now we have conducted the first reading. I guess we'll also do the item B, or 9B. Entertain a motion to set a public hearing for October 23, 2019 regarding the adoption of ordinance 2019-02. Or 01, excuse me.
01, the one we just talked about.
Yeah, so we're gonna be, this is a motion to set a public hearing for October 23, 2019.
So I motion that we set a public hearing for 2019-01 for the October 23rd meeting.
Perfect, do I have a second? Second by Director Covington, please indicate by saying,
So is
Oh.
that 01 or 02 for the 23rd?
that's 01. They're both gonna be for the 23rd, but we're just going one by one.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay, we have a motion by Director Hill, second by Director Covington. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next item on the agenda is ordinance 2019-02, ordinance of the Rodeo-Hercules Fire Protection District adopting engineering plan review and permitting fees. Chief?
So again, along with the fire code is normally when we'll look at our permitting fees. Now, permitting fees and plan check fees are collected into the district to support the Fire Prevention Bureau. That is their key, that is what they're for. And so to be able to support all functions of the Fire Prevention Bureau as far as inspections, salaries, everything that's related to fire prevention. The rest of the departments that we're meeting, they currently were not going to make any type of an adjustment to the fee schedule from 2016. But that doesn't mean we can't look at our fee schedule again. So in other words, it doesn't necessarily have to coordinate with the fire code. We just happen to do it with the fire code this year. So in 2020, and for some reason, or 2021, we saw that our fee schedule was not meeting the need of the Fire Prevention Bureau. We could adjust that fee schedule. There is some talk, some discussion about putting a CPI onto the fee schedule, but we currently do not have that in place. So before you is the same fee schedule as we had in 2016. The only difference is a date change.
Chief, question. Why don't we change why don't our fees change with the, inflation? I mean, everything goes up. Because you want to staff the Prevention Bureau with the full-time equivalent, then it seems like that would be an easy, because there's so much building going on, the price of everything has gone up. It seems like that would be an easy way to kind of offset some of the costs that you would incur by hiring a full-time.
You're 100% correct. But until I could do a full cost analysis, and we have not put that together yet, I want to do a full cost analysis of the Fire Prevention Bureau to find out if there is a shortcoming there before I brought before the board an increase in the fee structure and/or the CPI.
Well, big numbers, can't we pretty readily determine what the cost of the Bureau is annually?
I'm sorry, one more time. In big numbers, you say?
Well, I mean, looking at it from, I get that, I understand, if I understand correctly what you said, you're not prepared to do an analysis of each of the costs associated with these line items to make a determination of whether they need to be upgraded.
I have not completed that yet. So I'm not prepared to do it. I just haven't been able
Not
to.
prepared to present it to us.
Correct. I'm not prepared to present it.
But can't we pretty easily determine what the budget is for the Fire Prevention Bureau for the year?
I can, but what I want to do is really drill down into the weeds more or less on it and take those numbers and take them all the way out to what it costs for the engine companies to be able to go out and do their inspections, what it's costing exactly the Bureau to the time that's allowed for, and are we recouping those costs for doing all of our plan checks and plan reviews? Is administrative staff being covered for all the meetings that are being attended and the permits that are being created, and then the counter time for people coming in and picking up those permits and collecting funds. And I just want to make sure that, number one, maybe right now we're flush, but I don't want to just say that without having some concrete evidence to it. And we've never, in the history of the department, we've never done it before. So I don't have even anything to draw on to do that. We've never, I want to create a separate budget just for the Fire Prevention Bureau, and we've never done that before.
So at this time, if I hear this correctly, I'm understanding it correctly, we can't associate a total budget for fire prevention activities.
We cannot.
And
So I didn't think it was fair to raise our rates, basically, raise our fee schedule without knowing those numbers.
do you happen to know when the last time we raised these prices?
Did I do it in 2016? No, we left them flat in 2016. I don't know in 2013.
Do we know whether these are comparable to what other jurisdictions are charging, or?
These are the current rates that Contra Costa County currently charges.
So everybody in the county pretty much stays the same
Yes.
across the county?
Is our objective in this to be cost neutral, to?
Cost neutral, you have to be cost neutral.
Okay.
You cannot make money on your prevention bureau.
So in order for us to raise our fees, it would have to be a countywide raise.
It wouldn't have to be countywide, but we should at least be in line with what the rest of the county is doing. The county, I believe, they're just still doing the investigation, because the fire code has to be adopted before January. The fee structure does not. So they're still doing the investigative work on their fee schedule to see if they want to raise it or not.
Is there conversation throughout the county that we should be higher than we are currently?
No.
No? Everybody's
They-
pretty
they were
comfortable with where
actually-
they are?
Contra Costa was actually looking at staying just flat, but adding the CPI.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions regarding the ordinance?
Do we have a goal for when that analysis might be done? Is it for next year, or?
I want to, like I said, I want to create a separate budget for fire prevention. So I was going to just do it along with the 21-22 budget.
Is this something you can take on with the other agencies or with the county to do this cost analysis? Because it makes sense that they
Well,
would want to.
Each one of us has different costs.
Okay, so
If I was, just rough numbers right now, we are cost neutral. We only have a part-time prevention person. So, and that only puts in 8 hours a week. And currently, with the development that's going on, we are covering those costs easily.
Okay, good to know. Thank you. Any other questions regarding this item? Any public comment? None? Okay, with that, I'd like to entertain a motion to conduct the first reading of ordinance number 2019-02. I can make motions, right?
Yeah, you can also combine it with setting that public hearing.
Good, thank you. Okay, well, in that case, I'd like to make a motion to conduct the first reading and to set a public hearing for October 23rd, 2019. Do I have a second? Second by Director Covington. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we've conducted the first reading and a public hearing is set for the next meeting. Okay, next item. Fire facilities fees, resolution number 2019-11. Resolution to County Board of Supervisors for implementation of fire facilities fees reflecting the 80% rate imposed by the City of Hercules, the City of Hercules City Council, the Hercules City Council. And I think we have a report on this.
So the point of contention was our developer impact fees that went before the City of Hercules that then, through their power of their city council, reduced that rate to only 80% of what we were asking for. So this is coming before the Board of Supervisors at the county, at Contra Costa County. And our fee schedules have to match, so they have to be exactly the same. So the fee that we charge in Hercules has to be the same fee that we charge in Rodeo. They asked if we would pass an additional resolution stating that 80% fee structure that was set forth by the City of Hercules, because the Wildan report, the engineer's report, calls for something different. So that is why this is before you again, is so that we can bring this resolution and the engineer's report and all the accompanying documents to the Board of Supervisors for adoption.
What does the Wildan report call for, Chief?
Oh, boy.
100%.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, 100? Okay.
Well, just to clarify too, that 80%, so it's 80% of the recommendation by Wilton, not 80% of the recommended increase, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, cool. But that results in a net increase in diff fees?
It does.
Cool, just want to
An
make sure.
increase, but not the full measure of the fees that the Wildan report that we, I presume, paid mightily for, recommended.
Yes. Yeah, basically.
Which has the impact then of, Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but has the impact then of reducing the fee that fees we will realize in Rodeo that are administered by the county.
That is correct, although development in Rodeo is almost nil. But
Yeah, could change.
at least we have a CPI.
So, Chief, I have a couple of questions about this. You know, this is my sort of pet, I don't know what it is, pet peeve. Because I don't think the city really cited any cogent reasons for giving us 80% of what we were entitled to. So one question I have is, how long, I know that Wildan report was kind of long in the tooth. I mean, we'd had it hanging around for a couple of years already, right? How long, my question to you is, how long, or if you know the answer to this, is that report, can we consider that report valid?
Wildan stated that we should be doing a new report once every 5 years. So if I use that as, but I truly would think it would be based on changing economy and growth within your own city.
Well, if growth within the city is I don't know, a metric for this, then I would say we're experiencing quite a lot of growth in our city.
But no one is taking residency yet. So that we have growth, we have construction going on, but we don't have the population growth as of yet.
Well, we wouldn't realize any increase in impact fees if we waited till the development was occupied, right?
Correct, but that's what it's based on. It's based on
So I
the
guess what I'm
impact.
getting at is, would we be justified, in your view, without commissioning another study to go back a year from the City of Hercules decision to make the case for the additional fees?
I think with the CPI, and what I want to take a look at, I know that Contra Costa County Fire just passed their
100%,
diff fees. I would like, I want to see what those numbers are.
100%.
I understand they passed them at 100%, but I don't know what their numbers were. And so, I'd like to take a look at that and see how close they are to ours.
I think that, and I don't know, another time, maybe this is somewhat irrelevant, I'm not sure, but I don't know if there's another time to have this discussion. I think that the combination of the Wildan report and our strategic plan should, as I envision the strategic plan at least, although it's a little sketchy right now, position us put us in a better place for going back to the city a year from now to go after the additional, basically the 20%. I get we don't have to go after the CPI because that's already built in, right?
Well,
But-
with the CPA, we still have to get approval from the city and the county still, even though it's automatic, those agencies need to approve it first, right?
Yes, it will still come before both of those agencies once a year.
Well, that's what we were talking about with looking at like cities, with our type of growth and see.
Well, we can go right here in this county and find cities that have
Yeah.
approved those cities' versions of the Wildan report at 100%.
Yeah.
And my concern is there's an awful lot of development going on, and I guess I made the point already, but once the development occurs, we've missed the opportunity to realize those fees. So this is just one voice, but I'd like to see us commit ourselves to going back to the city in a year's time. I know that there was a good bit of time lag until we finally got to them this time, in May, I think it was, right? But I'd like to see us go back in a year with a stronger case to get the additional 20%.
Actually, I agree with that, especially with the strategic plan coming along and our expanded scope with MRG. I think we'll have definitely a better footing this time around to sort of justify their alleged concerns coming around that time. I don't know if there's a consensus with the board, but at least you have two.
I think in order for that to happen, as a board, we should probably do some back work and talk to Dan Romero mainly and get to the bottom of what the real issues are. Why don't they think we need the additional 20%? And then we can work backwards and come up with a plan so that when we present it, we're presenting whatever challenges they have with it, we're presenting answers to those challenges so that we're not just coming in, saying, well, we want our other 20% because it's ours.
The chief may have a better recollection, but my recollection is that we did not have a very good plan, or at least one that satisfied the City of Hercules City Council, on what it was we intended to do with those developer impact fees. I don't think we had a really cogent strategic plan around additional infrastructure. I think we talked about apparatus, if I remember correctly, but we didn't talk about that, I don't think. I could be wrong, but I don't think we did. And I don't think we talked about our financial commitment to, infrastructure to meet the needs of the additional development. And I just think we could probably, with the strategic plan, we could probably do a better job of that. I also think we talk a lot about citizens tax, not the Measure O committee, but what's that group? The bona fide tax. Am I allowed to ask questions of the audience?
Well, no, it's the
The
Contra Costa
Contra
tax.
Costa County Taxpayers
Yeah.
Association.
I mean, I think it might be nice to have those, maybe some participation of a group like that to talk about, what a decision, how the city's decision in the previous year put those costs directly on the backs of the taxpayers instead of on the developers.
Yeah, that's something to look down the road at least, but let's go back to the main point of this resolution. And so I did notice that the CPI was mentioned in this resolution, which is perfect. But in terms of the logistics of it, will the county have like a tickler on their calendar or something along those lines, or does the board basically have to approach them every year?
With the city, it's on their calendar every year. With the county, I don't know if it's the same. If they, with the city, they're just going to adopt it with all the rest of their CPIs that they have attached to things. I don't know if the county does it the same way.
Okay. Well, okay, so is that possible to find the?
I'll monitor that,
Yeah.
and when it's time to show up at the county at the Board of Supervisors meeting, then I'll show up.
Perfect. Okay, any other questions regarding the resolution, 2019-11? Any public comment? Okay, hearing none, guess we'll, okay, we'll entertain a motion to pass resolution 2019-11.
So moved.
Okay, a motion by Director Hill, do I have a second? Sure. Okay, second by Director Covington. We'll do a roll call vote.
Director Covington? Director Gabriel?
Yes.
Director Hill?
Yes.
Director Thorpe?
Yeah.
Let the record show, pass 4-2-0.
Perfect.
Can I make one minor administrative comment about this? Nothing to do with, Chief, you may want to look at the titles on page 2. Actually, this is, never mind. It's fine the way it is. It's not part of the resolution, so never mind.
Oh, okay. All right. The next item is number 12, lease agreement. Authorize fire chief to enter into lease purchase agreement for fire apparatus and equipment. I think there's a report on that.
There is. So within the budget, the 2019-2020 budget, and the report that you also received in the beginning of the year in regards to our apparatus and condition of our apparatus, it was brought forth that we have reached the time to replace one of our Type 1s engines and to put into second-line service our Quint. So I have looked at several different options as far as a lease purchase agreement, or different companies, I should say, as far as a lease purchase agreement is concerned. This is at the full cost, but this will not take effect. I need to enter into a lease purchase agreement, but we won't start making payments on this until the 2021 budget year. So you actually do not have to start making any payments until you receive delivery of the apparatus, and those are approximately 365 days out from the order date. So one of the best finance options so far is with the Special Districts Association, and that's that additional paperwork you have attached.
So it would be $2.5 million, Chief?
That is correct.
That's for the Quint and the engine?
Correct.
Who's the maker?
That hasn't been 100% decided yet, but currently we're looking at Schmiel Fire Apparatus in Omaha, Nebraska, or actually in Snyder, Nebraska, and either Pierce or High Tech in Oakdale.
Do both apparatus proposed to be purchased, do they meet the requirements to be paid out using developer impact fees?
It would be, yes.
And what about the other terms of the proposed lease agreement? Did we have a terms sheet that we can base it off of?
No, I currently do not have a contract.
And
Well, you want percentage rates and? Is
Yeah,
that what you're looking
percentage
for?
rates.
Yeah, it's between 1 and 3.
1 and 3%?
and what's the like terms of the lease as far as how many years would the lease be?
15.
15 years?
So I don't want to go any longer than the life
Span
of
of the-
the apparatus.
And so after 15 years, you turn that rig back and then,
No.
No?
It's really just a loan.
okay,
They just call it a lease.
okay.
Well, if it's 15, sorry, for in terms of authorization, it says here the recommendation you wanted 20, but just to clarify, 15 is more on the line? Sorry,
Not greater than 20.
not greater than 20, okay.
I just want to give myself some leeway.
And will we see the final terms before executing the lease? Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Will it be ready by, say, the second October meeting? Or maybe more time than that?
Yeah, I should have it all by then. They needed 20 days to be able to create the documents.
Oh.
And they've had them for probably close to 10 now.
Yeah.
So Chief,
Because we had to turn over financial reports and, you know.
if you're deciding between three apparatus, between two?
Only 2 apparatus.
No, I mean, three different makers, Pierce,
yeah.
High-Tech, and Schmiel, you said? Mm-hmm. If you say 2.5 million, is there a stair step? They can't all cost exactly the same, right? Is there a difference in price between?
There is. So the Type 1 engine is $860,022.83, and they want every nickel.
And that's for all three
No,
makers?
that was the,
The average price?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And the Quint is 1.4 million and some change.
Okay, so the 2.5 million represents, if we go, if Pierce is the highest, for example, if we went Pierce truck, Pierce engine, it would be 2.5 million. But if we went Schmiel truck, Schmiel engine, then it might be 2 million.
And this also includes equipment. So equipment's rolled into this also.
Okay.
So I just wanted to make sure that there's enough money on the table to be able to purchase both apparatus.
Is there a substantial price difference between the three makers?
I don't know that answer as far as if there's a huge variance between the two.
Yeah.
Or three.
Yeah.
And then also, we will be able to pay, in other words, we don't have to, there's no prepayment penalty. So we'll be able to use developer impact fees, found monies, whatever, to help pay this down quicker.
What are the planned use for the 1995 Spartan?
It'll go to try to be sold, but
Okay.
there's not really any value in it.
It's a used fire engine.
Yeah.
Chief, is this based on the guidance that you got in the 2018 board meeting on where Captain Coleman presented on the fleet status? Is that what this is based on? Because, well, I'll just answer that question. Is that what it's based on? Guidance from that meeting, or?
That is correct. So we did a fleet analysis. The fleet was was broken down and given, using a kind of a score sheet, I guess. And then a recommendation was made by the fleet manager on what apparatus needed to be replaced, what apparatus needed to be placed in the second out.
So that recommendation was made to replace the existing Quint with a Quint, and that was approved by the board? Is that what you're telling me?
That's correct. Yeah. The analysis was approved by the board.
And there was an analysis on the financing and the selection
There was
of
not
the
at that time.
selection of the manufacturer and all that. I mean, I guess
The
what
board doesn't normally make a selection about manufacturer of what apparatus we're going to purchase.
a recommendation, or I mean, I don't know,
No.
was it presented at all? I just.
No.
So I wholeheartedly support replacing the apparatus, but to me, this is a little too sketchy on the details for me to really make a judgment on this.
Well, just, sorry to
And-
chime in,
don't know what we're
but this was
being asked
just
for.
this is just the authorization for him to get the contracts before us for the next, hopefully for the next meeting. So it's not necessarily like, we'll get more details about who the manufacturers, the contracts, the terms, et cetera, hopefully by the October 23rd meeting, but this is more of like, it's okay for chief to enter these discussions within these parameters. is I think along the lines of what you're looking for out of this.
I want to be able to start, move forward with these manufacturers and stop. I mean, we've been in this process of trying to purchase apparatus for probably close to a year. And it's, the Quint is 14 years old. It's not getting any younger. It has 88,000 miles. Most departments would have, it wouldn't even go into second out. We would just retire it. The other engine is 20-plus years old, has 100,000 miles on it, and was long due to be replaced. I would absolutely, need some direction from the board as far as how much the board wants to have input on operations and how we want to purchase. I would think the board would want to have input on how we enter into a purchase agreement, but as far as the type of apparatus we purchase and the manufacturers we purchase from, I wasn't familiar with that you wanted that brought to you.
I'll just repeat what I said before. I wholeheartedly support the replacement of the apparatus. I think it's overdue. And I didn't participate in that discussion in 2018, so to me, there's some missing pieces. Perhaps I can go back and review that, the minutes from that meeting.
And I'd be
Or
glad to
perhaps we
supply
could
you
have a
with the report.
conversation. Maybe we could have a separate conversation about it.
Yeah.
Well, just to give a little background information too, is because I was there in that 2018 meeting, was the current ladder truck that we have is a 75-foot ladder. I think in order to meet the needs of the development in the waterfront, we would need a 100-foot ladder truck. And as for the 1995 Spartan, it doesn't necessarily have the equipment needed. So, for example, one piece of equipment that would really benefit the district would be, I think it was having foam capabilities. Is that being discussed for this replacement type
It
one?
is. It's actually for both, both rigs. Also, the 95, it's past its life expectancy, way past its life expectancy.
Yeah. I think like a lot of our fleet was in that red zone that Captain Coleman presented.
That's correct.
And this one being the most egregious violator.
So just so I make sure I'm understanding, Chief, we're just approving the parameters of a lease purchase program.
Move forward in
We're not doing anything to do with the actual, what rigs are actually
purchased.
being purchased.
Right.
Okay.
I appreciate that clarification. That wasn't clear to me
Yeah.
either.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, or concerns from the board? Any public comment? None? Okay, I think you just needed a consensus from the board, or would you like a motion?
Oh, probably should do a motion because it has to do with money.
Okay. All right, in that case, I will entertain a motion to provide the chief with authority within the parameters recommended in his memorandum. Okay, we have a motion by Director Covington. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, okay, and then we'll just all in favor indicate by saying aye. 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 Okay. Any opposed? Okay, you have authority from the board to move forward. Oh, it's okay. He has to be here to make that. Next item, fire chief's report. Or is there a B? It's blank, but I just want to clarify with the chief if there's supposed to be a second part to that. In 12, there's a B.
I think that's a typo.
Okay, sorry. All right, next item, fire chief's report.
Some of the highlights, I think I brought to you before that I had been sponsored to join the Rotary, and so that did occur, and I was, you're not sworn in, you're just welcomed in because it's they call it a family-oriented organization that, so I was welcomed into Rotary, and that has been, and after that occurred, they didn't really have a meeting place. They'd been meeting at the library, and sometimes the library had forgotten to let them in. And so now the Rotary meets at the fire station, so at Station 76. And as far as community outreach and meeting with business leaders within the city, I think it has been very fruitful for us. Was it We always have a guest speaker. The guest speaker today was from Bio-Rad, and if you knew anything about Bio-Rad, Bio-Rad never normally comes out of their facility to do any type of outreach. And so this person is the lead legal representation for Bio-Rad. He gave a very good speech and or talk about how he was connected to Rotary, how Rotary was actually who sponsored him to go to school. He went to school in Wales. And so anyway, it's been very, very fruitful meeting some of the business leaders of the community. Also, for the first time, so the City of Hercules is developing their emergency response plan. And we have been, it's a steering committee. They have a steering committee for it. And we were asked to sit on that steering committee. And that just tells you where our relationship has grown with the City of Hercules, which I was very appreciative to be asked to sit on that committee with them. We did receive a grant from Phillips 66 for $25,000 to purchase a large diameter hose, and that we've already received that check, and the order for that hose has been placed. Those are pretty much the highlights, unless you see something else that you have any questions about. 25,000.
And that was enough for both rigs?
That was enough for 2.5 rigs.
I don't see the Phillips 66 grant on here. Might have.
Neither do I. For some reason.
Okay, I take it. We probably just didn't make it there.
Chief, I do have a question about labor relations. We talked about the recruitment efforts and the hiring of two new firefighters earlier. Is that going to be an academy, or are they going to be trained in-house?
So all of them that we interviewed, all are firefighter ones, and so normally we do what's called a 10 shift.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the current plan as of today. So we don't put them through a full academy. They're put on 10 24-hour shifts with one crew.
Okay. And then they go from there, what happens after that?
Then we come up with where they're going to be placed as far as within the engine companies.
Mm-hmm.
But they just serve as the fourth person on the crew for those 10 shifts.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay. And then they have 18-month probation after that, or 1 year probation?
18 months,
18
yes.
months. Okay.
All right, any other questions regarding the fire chief's report? Any public comment?
I do have one question. What was the sheet for the budget allocation of funds request?
That's going to be in the last
that-
item number 23, I
Okay.
believe. Is
Got
it? Yeah, that's going to be item
Sorry.
23. Okay, no public comment and no other questions, comments, or concerns. We'll move on to staff reports. October board meeting. I take it you were just announcing that we're going to have a board meeting on October 23rd? Okay, sounds good. Board member reports, LAFCO. I think we all have the LAFCO agenda included in our packets. Bless you. Okay, any questions regarding this? I didn't have any questions. None? None? Okay. Next item is the Measure O Oversight Committee report. No, nothing to report from the Measure O Oversight Committee. Okay, ad hoc board committee reports.
I have one item to report. Although I did not receive any written confirmation of this, I did receive from Paul Freeze, the chairperson of the Oversight Committee, that one of the members, Mr. Artizzoni, has resigned. So we are back to our 3 members.
That's unfortunate.
Did he give a reason?
He did, his wife is ill health.
Okay, well, next, back to 3. We'll keep going with the recruiting efforts of that. Next item is the ad hoc board committee reports. And pardon me, I know I'm on one regarding the 172, and I don't have anything to report, but I'm not sure, quite frankly, which. I know we dissolved one other ad hoc committee. Oh,
Budget and also the,
live broadcast.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. In that case, then there's nothing to report. Oh, the reserve program ad hoc committee. I think that's still. Yeah. Is there anything to report with the reserve? No. Okay. That concludes ad hoc board committee reports. And then next is local 1230 correspondence. Okay. No worries. Okay, and then in that case, we're going to go ahead and adjourn to closed session. It is 7:59. Okay. All right, the time is 8:33. We're calling the meeting back to order. Next item on the agenda is reconvene in open session, closed session report out.
There's nothing to report.
Thank you. Next item is discussion, memorandum of understanding between Rodeo-Hercules Fire District and Local 1230. Possible action item. Okay, I think before the board was the a proposed memorandum of understanding between RHFPD and Local 1230. Were there any questions? Or is there a report from the chief regarding this?
No report,
Okay.
besides the fact that you do have the MOU before you. You should have a copy of the MOU. The MOU's length will be from July 1st of 2019 to July 1st of 2021. Or June 30th, I'm sorry,
Okay.
since I don't have it in front of me.
In that case, I think I can, at least to me, that this MOU looks to be fair. I think it's reasonable. I think it's an accurate representation of what both Rodeo-Hercules Fire Protection District in its current state is able to achieve, as well as the needs and wants of the Local 1230. And both parties, I think, reached a really good understanding in terms of what the content of the MOU is. But after that, was there any comments or questions from the board regarding the MOU? Any public comments regarding this item?
I have no speaker cards.
Okay, and then with that, I think I'll entertain a motion to adopt the memorandum of understanding between RHFPD and Local 1230 from July 1, 2019 to June 30, 2021. We have a motion by Director Covington. Do I have a second?
I wholeheartedly second it.
Thank you. And a wholehearted second by Director Hill. I think in this case, we'll do a roll call vote.
Director Covington,
Yes.
Director Gabriel,
Yes.
Director Hill,
Yes.
Director Thorpe.
Yes.
The record show 4-0
Perfect.
in
And
favor of adopting Local 1230's MOU.
perfect. All right. I think it also goes to say that, I think great work by Glenn Berkheimer, who was helping us walk through this. He just stepped out, but yeah, he was a big part of it. Okay, item number 23, the 2019-2020 budget possible action item. I think there's a report from the chief on that.
That is correct. So due to the decision that the board just made, thank you very much, and the finalization of this contract, we do need to make some corrections in the budget. Those corrections are before you, or not corrections, adjustments. And those are all due except for the county risk management and the facilities maintenance. All those adjustments are in regard to the contract.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Yeah.
So, Chief, you actually suggested what my questions are, and they are, what are the two? I don't understand. The background is this is due to anticipated finalization of the bargaining units, blah, 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 which we've done. But why the last two? I don't understand those. The rest of it's clear to me, but why facilities maintenance? What's the...
County risk management, so there was an increase in county risk management, that's our insurance. So it was an increase in our insurance rate.
Because it's unrelated to the
It's nothing to do with
negotiations
the
with
MOU.
1230.
Right.
And why facilities maintenance? What's the... is it
So we
something-
had an ongoing project out in our storage workout room. Last year, we had a black mold issue, and this was to finish up that project. So we needed $8,000 in additional funding to finish that project, to keep that from occurring again.
Is any of that recovered from insurance?
It was not.
Could it have been?
I don't believe so, because those are modular buildings, and they weren't part of the main structure.
What was the total cost for that project?
13,000,
Including the 8?
including the 8, yes.
Okay, and then the facilities maintenance, that's, I mean, the county risk management, the adjustment, didn't we do something like that previously as well? Like, we had to adjust because the insurance rates went up?
I don't know
Okay.
yes or no on that. It's, we didn't receive the increase until after the budget had been finalized, so that's why I was bringing it to you.
Okay, there it is. Okay, and then with this 43,493 difference, we're still good in terms of the overall budget? We're not negative or anything like that?
That is correct.
Okay. Any other questions for the chief regarding this budget allocation of funds request? Okay, do we have any public comment regarding this issue? None? Okay, and with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the requested budget amendments.
So moved.
Motion by Director Hill. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second by Director Covington. We'll just do a roll call vote.
Director Covington?
Yes.
Director Gabriel?
Yes.
Director Hill?
Yes.
Director Thorpe?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Perfect. Next item is the request for future agenda items. Are there any requests for future agenda items any board member would like to see? Okay, hearing none. Go ahead. The time is 8:40. The meeting is adjourned.
It's going.